That was like one of our first official K&B jobs. And ironically enough, we cut an early reel together and we sent that. Some producer called and said, hey, we got some makeup effects we need, and I sent him the reel. He called me, he was like, I would never hire you in a million years because I'm so personally offended by the level of gore that you sent me on that videotape. And I went, well, that's kind of what we do. The guy was like incensed and insulted that I had sent him that shot of the guy being bisected on the bandsaw. But what we did was we were able to start into our career in the late 80s doing a lot of the Freddy Krueger and Halloweens and Michael Myers, Jason and all that kind of stuff. But we also segued into some more realistic stuff. We did a medical school film called Gross Anatomy. We built a bunch of cadavers. And literally Kevin Costner saw our portfolio and went, wow, these are really realistic looking. So I have these buffalo I need to make for this movie called Dances with Wolves. So within a 2-year span, our company went from a couple guys that just loved horror movies to being involved in a movie that won Best Picture. So my goal for myself personally was, I was like, I don't want K&B to peak in 1990 or 1991. If Dances with Wolves is the best movie we've ever done, then where do we go from here? So we've always pushed and tried to strive to really better ourselves and better the art. And part of doing that is by being a fan and seeing these movies and saying, okay, I'm going to do a zombie movie, but I want to make the zombies look a little bit different than anyone's ever seen them before, so the audience feels like they're getting something more out of it. You don't want to see the same gag over and over again. So we've been tremendously lucky, and as you can see from the volume of work, I feel like I'm 900 years old. But these are the kinds of times when it's the most rewarding. Because listen, I mean, I would be, if I wasn't up here, I would be sitting in the audience listening to somebody else talk about movies and about their contribution to the industry. And, you know, one of you guys might be a director someday, and you're going to go, oh, it's called Nicotero and K&B, and have them do effects for us. So I still really love the idea of making movies, and it's so much fun, and the thrill of even sitting and listening to guys like George Romero talk, and you hear this guy's still making great movies after all these years. You know, I want to be that guy too. I want to make movies that people are proud of, that people are excited to see. So it's definitely been challenging, and with the advent of computer technology, of course, it was very interesting because in the mid-90s, when The Abyss came out and all of a sudden people were doing a lot of CGI work, there was this spike in productions of fantasy movies like Spawn and Men in Black and all the stuff, where all of a sudden they were realizing they could greenlight a lot of these big effects movies because they had this new technology. And now there's a really interesting sort of fine line, you know, too much makeup effects versus too much CG versus how do you blend them and how do you work them into the movie. A good example is The Mist, which I don't know if you guys have seen. If you haven't seen it, it's an amazing movie. Thank you. Frank Darabont, who's been a great friend of mine, wrote a really intense movie, and he had the opportunity to make the film that he wanted to make. And yes, the ending is intense and bleak, and some people like it and some people hate it, and they're very passionate about it. But it was a really amazing experience because we got to design all the creatures, and we built puppets, and we did a lot of interface between the CGI guys and our puppet work in terms of just, it was really what's the best way to accomplish this effect that will get the best result on screen. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, there are sometimes when somebody will say, okay, I need to build a 12-foot creature and I want it to walk from there to there. And I said, well, that's when you call a guy named Kevin Van Hook and you have them do a digital creature that comes across, walks across here and then it stops, and then you have an insert of it grabbing the guy, and there's an animatronic hand. You have to really think like a director, like an editor, like a cinematographer. You have to figure out where you're going to hide things. And Tom Savini, of course, who was so instrumental in me getting into this business, talked a lot about being a magician. You know, it's all misdirection. I mean, the scene you saw from Misery, when we shot that scene, we broke for lunch, and Rob Reiner came up and said, all right, you guys get the leg brake rigged up. We're going to go to lunch. We come back, we'll be ready to shoot it. So we cut 2 holes in the mattress. James Caan put his real legs into the holes, and we attached fake legs. We strapped them down, and we painted everything up and got it all ready. So the crew came back for lunch, and to them it just looked like James Caan was laying there with his legs out. And they're like, what the hell have you guys been doing all lunchtime? You gotta rig up for the effect. And we're like, well, those are the fake legs. And oh, okay, well, great. So we shot the effect, and again, when you look at that movie and the way it's directed, you see that close-up of Kathy Bates, and she takes the sledgehammer and she hoists it up in a close-up, and she says, God, I love you. And you're basically selling her performance by showing that she's lifting up a real sledgehammer. Then they cut to a wide shot, and she struggles to swing it. So in your mind, you're going, okay, I know that it's a real sledgehammer because I've seen her struggling with it. But you haven't thought about, oh, wait a minute, when they cut the camera, they replaced his legs with fake legs because you're focusing on the sledgehammer, you're not thinking about it. So she raises the sledgehammer and swings down, and in your brain, you're going, okay, they're gonna cut, they're not gonna show it. And there's that amazing impact and that amazing sound effect. And the next thing you know, you feel like you've just watched a guy get his legs broken on camera. In the original Stephen King story, he gets his foot cut off with an axe. So Rob Reiner, first thing he said is, well, I can't cut the lead actor's foot off with an axe, because then where does the movie go from there? So he came up with the hobbling idea. And I remember the first screening that we went to in Westwood, Rob came up to me afterwards and he said, I've never felt the oxygen get sucked out of a theater more in my life than when she raises that sledgehammer, because everybody in the audience went, he said it was like this vacuum of all of a sudden there was zero oxygen, everyone's hair goes, because all the oxygen gets sucked out.